Hello, service tube review. Tonight we got another debate review for you, only on Debate the Facts. Joining me, I got Kevin Devine and Mr. Sweet Baby Ray.
Hey!
How you gentlemen doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Let me.
I'm doing all right. I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little too excited to make a little bit of fun of Justin there, so that I don't offend anybody or any religions, so I don't get any Islamic, jihadists knocking on my door. How is it that we say his name?
Khalil.
Khalil.
Khalili.
Oh, okay. All right. So not Justin. Would that be offensive?
No. He's K Lilies now.
Okay.
K Lilies.
K Lily. Yeah.
Right. Kalilala. Kalilala.
Kalina.
Okay.
The K-pop Lily motherfucker. He is.
Okay.
And yeah, he got into some real epistemology trouble the other day when he confronted an atheist saying he had some bad epistemology. And once we get that motherfucking video I sent you, Sweet Baby Ray.
Hey, you know what? I should start using that name, Sweet Baby Ray.
Oh shit, we got it. So Mr. Khalil entertained an atheist on some epistemology, because you know that word epistemology has been sunk. Like he can't keep it out of his fucking mouth. Eventually he might even learn what it is. But he confronted an atheist on his epistemology, and it went all kinds of out of hand for him. So I've never seen.
There we go. There go Ruby Lips.
Khalil takes off on an atheist.
I need to get a soundboard on this end so I can at least have that sad trombone.
Here, Kevin. Natalie Cruz is here for you.
Oh, Natalie, what's going on, Natalie?
Hey, Natalie.
She is my brother's girlfriend. They had a baby together.
Oh,
it was recently her birthday, so we could give her a shout out. Happy late birthday, Natalie. That was a dope party.
Happy birthday.
That was a dope party. So here, Natalie, we are just basically kind of making fun and reviewing a debate between a very recently reformed Muslim who was an atheist. What, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I think he was an atheist trucker 3 weeks ago, and now he's formerly known as Justin, and now he is Khalilullah, very, very proud Muslim, and I believe that he gave that name to himself, which I think that's fine. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
And then we have Shane the skeptic, who is an obvious atheist. So we're just having a little fun. Poking a little fun at people.
From my conversation with Justin's Down syndrome, he told me that Khalil Allah stands for friend of Allah.
Mm.
Well,
okay.
Allah's no friend of mine.
Yeah, I gave him a chance. You know what I mean? But
let's see how this
stay very long.
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Khalil Allah versus Shane the Skeptic.
It really helps out liking the video and sharing the video out to get more subscribers.
Like, share, and subscribe. Smash that like
that myself and the rest of my panel has to offer. Blow
up that like
you guys
button.
For being here tonight. I'll be having a discussion with Shane the Skeptic. He has a YouTube channel called Shane the Skeptic. That is down in the description below. Go ahead and visit his channel. Check out some of his content. And consider hitting the like and subscribe button for him also.
I'll be doing that.
Shane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I go by Shane the Skeptic. I have a channel where I cover, some basic things like counter apologetics, debunking. I recently started a more discussion-based series where I take on topics where people tend to debate the topics, but debates kind of
he looks like
bring
something
this
a
point-scoring
made in a lab.
So my discussion series is a little bit more focused on just finding the points of contention and talking about the disagreements. So everything about critical thinking is pretty much what I'm interested in on my channel. I want to make it clear I'm a a self-taught philosopher, and I don't know if philosopher
Yeah,
is
right. You
a
know my
term
social
that you use
security
for someone
code.
who's been to college. I'm not a philosopher because I've never been to college. So that's me.
Take over the world.
We're in the same boat.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been studying philosophy for a little over a year now.
Oh!
A little over a year,
actually
huh?
had an interaction on Facebook.
Just a little, right?
We should bring it to a discussion.
This
guy's an expert.
Channel, you're a content
he's got
creator,
a
and so
fancy
am I. I
microphone
figured, hey,
now.
let's bring this
I like it.
discussion. Just have a friendly discussion.
That beard, I like how he
Since
does
I was an atheist. The point of my show has always been
just
to
starts jerking it
get
off
with
and
people
shit.
that have different, differing views than I do, and kind of bounce ideas off of each other's head. Have a good conversation. See where we may be able to go back to the drawing board, or where the other person might need to go back to the drawing board, and we can try and collectively come together, have a friendly conversation without things getting violent.
Yeah, you'd have.
Why would you mention that?
About
Wow.
Differences.
Yeah.
I really
And when he-
wanted to
when-
focus on
when he said other
how
person, he meant
investigate
Shane.
claims, what's the methodology
No,
that we use
I can promise
to
you, I
try
got
and come
voicemails
to
with this guy
reasonable
in my
beliefs or
DMs, dude.
reasonable
He's pretty
conclusions on
violent.
things. So if
Perfect
you
religion
could,
for
Shane,
him, I
just
tell you what.
kind of give me your basic epistemology on how you would investigate a claim that is,
Hey, next time we
let's just
review
say
one
a
of his,
claim
we
that has
guys
to
do
do
a
with something
drinking
that's
game where every time it
immaterial
says
or not part of
epistemology,
the
we take
temporal
a shot.
I'm drinking milk.
Depending on
You'll
the
have
different
to.
claims, I would investigate them using different
live
methods
stream,
and
about an hour in,
more
he
obviously
does, like,
different
pass
standards of
out
evidence.
on the floor.
I am willing to give a more thorough and detailed answer to your question, but I was a little bit more interested in, since you didn't say that you thought if you knew about my epistemology, then you would probably have enough in it to correct. What you told me was that you could fix my epistemology. So I kind of wanted to begin by wondering, what are some problems of my epistemology that you're already
Big
aware
claim.
of that need to be fixed?
So from what I gathered from the claim that was made on Facebook was that there needed to be some type of with the episode that we were talking about. I think it was the epistemology video. We were on the video we were discussing different standards of evidence and whatnot, and I think there were some comments in there that was basically alluding to some type of empiricism, or if you don't have empirical data, it's not, you can't hold reasonable beliefs. So that's why I basically said, if
you don't have empirical data, you can't have a long.
I'd like to dive into that and try and fix
So
it.
I don't
can't wear a
remember.
do-rag like
I remember our first interaction. It was on.
That is not a do-rag.
I don't remember it.
Hold on. I don't even want to be too offensive to people. I think that's a good,
I am.
What is that? What is that called?
That's called a kufi.
It's called a what?
A kufi.
A kufi. I like one way better than a do-rag. A kufi. All right.
It's like a breathable beanie. But what did he say was wrong? He confronted well, Justin, what do you think's wrong with my epistemology that needs to be fixed? What was his answer to that?
Yeah, let's go back to it. Is this where he starts blowing wind?
With the episode that we were talking about, I think it was the epistemology video. We were on the video we were discussing different standards of evidence and whatnot, and I think there were some comments in there that was basically alluding to some type of empiricism, or if you don't have empirical data, it's not, you can't hold reasonable beliefs. So that's why I basically said, if that's the position that you hold, I'd like to dive into that and try and fix.
So that. I don't remember. I remember our first interaction. It was on the post that Oz made. I don't remember it being about an epistemology video, but yeah, I guess I'm willing to answer if you're unaware. I am an empiricist. I'm somebody who is the two largest influences in my epistemology would be René Descartes and David Hume. The thing about that is Descartes, as you know, is a rationalist, and Hume is an empiricist. So I think that a lot of people get really hung up on rationalism and empiricism because it's a little bit confusing. What would it mean if somebody believed that the only way that you could come to know something was through the means of your senses. But if that person also believed in a priori knowledge, a lot of people say that, if you don't believe, a lot of people say that empiricism entails a lack of belief in a priori knowledge. So what is the person who thinks knowledge requires sense use, but believes in a priori knowledge? So it's kind of hard to fit into a camp. I would say that I hold to empiricism, but I don't hold to it as confidently as I hold to other philosophical positions like determinism or my atheism. And the atheism, of course, I'm not a hard atheist. I'm what's known as a soft atheist. So yeah, empiricism would be what I hold to.
What the hell's a soft
would
atheist?
you hold to empiricism, even for when it comes to
It's like
claims
skin,
not of space-time
skin
and matter?
strength or some shit.
Well,
I
so
still don't quite
empiricism
understand.
basically means that my body.
Oh, no, go back. Yes, you see what he asked? Look
So it's kind of hard to fit into a camp. I would say that I hold to empiricism, but I don't hold to it as confidently as I hold to other philosophical positions like determinism or my atheism. And the atheism, of course, I'm not a hard atheist. I'm what's known as a soft atheist.
You big old softy.
So yeah, empiricism would be what I hold to.
Okay. Would you hold to empiricism even for when it comes to claims not of space-time and matter?
Well, so empiricism basically means that my body is the context-specific mechanism with which I analyze information. So if there's information that exists in such a way that I'm unable to interpret it with my senses, I would never use that to say like, okay, well, I can't interpret it, so it can't exist. But I would say that if I can't interpret it, then I'm left without the justification necessary for arriving at the belief that it exists.
Okay. So when
Shane's
you
a robot.
You
He's
listen
a fucking
to,
robot.
You like Rene
Definitely.
Descartes. Obviously, he has the cogito.
It's a program implanted by the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Look at him. His skin is even done like completely done.
Or experience
I
type.
think he's premature out of the cryo tube.
So
Yeah.
would you say that you can hold a rational belief without that firsthand experience?
No.
So a particular belief can be held without an experience of the particular thing that you believe in. So, for example, you could believe in a
This is how this
red
whole thing
triangle,
goes, man.
even if you've never actually seen one. The problem with that rationalists make by thinking that that is an argument against empiricism is what you're doing is you're combining two concepts with which you were formerly acquainted, red and triangles. So when you think of a red triangle or a gold mountain or, as David Hume says, a virtuous horse, you can think of these things and conceptualize them without actually interpreting them directly. But what you're doing is you're combining other conceptions that you've been formerly acquainted with. And that's my response to
He's
that.
bringing this motherfucker Dr. Seuss to
Okay,
Khalil.
so to just
Khalil
kind of
asked him, he said, do you need empiricism when there's claims about a man, bear, pig? There's obviously a reason he don't believe in a man, bear, pig.
Right.
Because he ain't never heard it. He ain't never seen it. The only person that told him about it is Al Gore on South Park.
Did Al Gore really say that?
On South Park.
It was a South Park episode where Man Bear Pig was the insert for global warming.
Yeah.
So he runs around the town talking about Man Bear Pig, and everyone's like, "Okay, bro, whatever, man."
That's hilarious.
No, but South Park came back and said they're like, I can't believe Man Bear Pig. Remember, Man Bear Pig's real now.
Oh yeah, in the Imagination Land and shit.
No, Man Bear Pig came to life in the new world. In South Park, don't cancel me world.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
And it looked like a man bear pig, right? They had it in whatchamacallit, in
I thought you
Imagination Land.
The problem is, and I hate to ruin it for everybody.
Into a nice
this
summary,
entire debate,
you think that it's
the whole point of
reasonable.
their interaction. The whole point of their interaction was that I'm sure Khalil was being a fucking asshole like he usually is, and was trying to fucking be like he's all knowing, and basically told Shane the skeptic, who's obviously a cyborg, right, that he could fix his epistemology. In no point in this entire discussion, and I hate to spoiler alert, he neither fixes it or even tries to attempt to fix it, because Shane is just on this different wavelength than a lot of us can perform on. And Khalil kind of went back into his shell, and I would like to see him have pushbacks on some of these things, because he comes at people super sideways. And when I see this, knowing this guy personally, I see that he's fake as shit and he has identity issues. So I'm just going to say that before we get this out of the way. So keep that in mind, that this is the type of dude that while he's playing all nice and sweet and, you know, he will come and he will leave you the most vile fucking voice messages you can imagine. And so there it is.
He canceled us.
Yeah, well, he removed.
Yeah, we're canceled
too.
Yeah, he canceled us.
Yeah,
we're totally canceled.
Hey, did you get this claim through empirical means or rational? Because I've been getting around to studying philosophy for about fucking 15 years now. I was about to do it for 15 years ago, and I was just wondering. Have you rationalized this, or have you seen this before?
Everybody sit back and enjoy the show where Khalil, who's been studying, different religions and philosophy for about a year now, he's about to school all of us.
He's been studying philosophy.
He's about to school us. I'm ready. I'm ready. Kalua. That guy right there, you buddy. Let's go. Let's do it. Show me.
Yeah,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the episode of Debate the Facts. I want to thank you so much for
some beliefs, depending on the situation, with strictly a priori knowledge, but in other situations, you would require some type of empiricism to go along with the rational arguments.
A posteriori.
So like I could believe in a certain color of a species of bird without ever directly seeing that. So if that would be a yes, then yeah. I mean, I don't think that you have to see a bird of that color to be justified in knowing that a bird of that color exists.
Right.
But you do have to see colors and birds, and you would have your knowledge of those things through empirical senses.
Someone's dreams
so
to believe that
you could arrive at beliefs without directly interpreting them through your senses, but your concept of them is going to be composed of things that you have previously sensed and compiled together.
Okay. So when it comes to something, you've probably heard this plenty before, but this is a big sticking point for me. Part of the reasons why I had changed my position.
Change your position. You've been converted to a fucking
do
it yourself.
The problem of solipsism is that you would have your knowledge of those things through empirical senses. So you could arrive at beliefs without directly interpreting them through your senses, but your concept of them is going to be composed of things that you have previously sensed and compiled together.
Let's see why it changes.
So when it comes to something, you've probably heard this plenty before, but this is a big sticking point for me. Part of the reasons why I had
took the blue pill.
Yeah.
He took the blue pill. That's what he did.
Sticking point. That's another one that we got to do sometime. We got to take shots with sticking point.
He's about to sprinkle us with some theist game. Let's hear it.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready.
Position. Do you believe, or what's your position, or what's your feelings on?
What did he change? What did he leave us like that?
Solipsism is something that is going to come up in almost any discussion about epistemology, and that is perfectly fine. It's perfectly reasonable. It becomes relevant. The problem becomes when somebody uses somebody's inability to solve that problem as a criticism, because nobody's actually solved that problem.
Exactly.
Wait.
Yes. So I don't think anybody's solved the problem. I come from a position to where that's not a problem for me, because I bite the bullet and I automatically say we have to assume that other minds exist axiomatically.
That's
a big word. This is my favorite word. Mark that word. That's the word of the day here.
Evidence.
Axiomatically.
My observation
I definitely have to
of
start doing what he does, which is like look up 5 really big words before I go into the
other minds existing.
Somehow, someone slide it in.
That could be a figment of your imagination, and no longer could be. It could be a form of empirical evidence.
Sure, it could be, but how are you observing other minds?
What do you mean?
Like how do you observe the fact that like we're talking right now? How could you do that without your senses?
Right. Tell him.
So without my physical like taste, sight, touch, like I have photons bouncing off the back of my retinas right now. Seeing my computer screen moving on the screen. I lucid dream.
Lucid dreaming.
If I turn the TV off an hour
this is
before
better
bed,
than I
read a
thought it
book,
was
Right.
gonna be.
Okay. I can actually put myself and do what's called a reality check.
I can
And
put
while I'm
myself.
asleep, if my fingers go through my palm, I know that I'm in a dream, and I could literally have a conversation with you in my dream.
I envy that because
He can literally do that.
I have
He
no
can do that.
When I'm in my dreams, I have no what I know, my rationality, it's gone if I'm able to remember them. So
Well, that's
are you?
because
Is your
you're telling the truth and you're an honest person, so you're not just making shit up. I can fly through the fucking plains of distance. I visit people in their dreams and I give them wisdom. Oh my god!
Go back to Shane getting. Look at his face when he's getting filibustered again.
That face right there.
Credit. He's being nice. He's being super nice, dude.
There we go.
Watch Shane. Look at Shane. Poor little.
Nah,
Shane.
I just think he looks like that no matter what.
Poor Shane. No, look at Shane's facial expressions while he's getting filibustered to all hell. He's like, without my sight, well, I can feel photons on the back of my eyeballs.
And I can
epistemology
lucid
when
dreams.
my dreams. When I'm in my dreams, I have no what I know, my rationality, it's gone if I'm able to remember them.
I'm using this all as ammo against this fool.
Is your response that you don't know that we're talking because you could be dreaming? Because it doesn't sound like you would ordinarily hold that view.
Trying to figure out.
Yeah, so I through a non-God, because I don't want God is not a part of this conversation quite yet.
Oh come on, it's part of your fucking name, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like to meet you where you're at and have a conversation about what we both value and what we both seem reasonable. So
you're having that conversation right now.
That's really not part of the
Tell us
picture.
the sticking points.
Right.
From this
Besides
standpoint,
the lucid dreaming
I
and the
can
photons
only
bouncing off the
assume
back of your retinas.
because it best represents what I'm experiencing.
But you're experiencing it through your senses, though. Like you're experiencing the photons and all that. Like that's a sense. You're seeing me. You're hearing me.
I'm
And
experiencing that. I'm experiencing it through my senses. But this all could
That's a
be.
nice guy. You didn't just go poof.
So
right, but that doesn't matter because we've already bit the bullet and said that, okay, we can't solve that problem, but we're just not going to operate off of okay, anytime we're trying to figure out, do we know something, we not go, oh yeah, but I could be dreaming, so I don't know it. Like we're biting the bullet there, and we're moving forward with, okay, as far as we can tell, based on the axioms and presuppositions that we have to make, that we have to accept.
He doesn't know.
Doesn't it seem like in order for you to know that we're interacting, you have to use your senses?
From my experience, I have to use my senses while I'm experiencing what I would say is a non-dream state.
Right, and there wouldn't be a way of experiencing my existence without your senses.
Hey, who wants to take bets on
No,
the
I
fact
can
that
do it in
Khalil
dreams
still
without my
double
actual
fist bacon?
After having sensed me, of course, because you can conceptualize me after you're formally acquainted with me. But how
He
could
grows
you
the piggies in his
conceptualize
backyard.
Oh, I
Shane the
bet,
skeptic,
dude, I bet.
this person, his ideas, the way he interacts with people? How could you conceptualize it without being formally
You can make
acquainted
a
with
drinking
anyone?
game out of how many times he strokes his
in my
beard.
lucid dreams, I have
He
met
just didn't
many
want to let
people
that
I
fucking
do not
luck
know
shit.
exist.
Yes, but you've been
Everybody's
acquainted
away.
with people.
He's like, it's official. My
I've been
beard's
acquainted
fucking
with
gangster. I'm a
people due to
Muslim
my
now.
experience. But going back to the fundamental point, we just
Give me
have
that
to
queefy
assume that we're
thing
actually
for my head. Let's go.
experiencing people. So the whole idea to that thought experiment was to say, hey, we can hold rational beliefs because it best explains the universe that we live in, best explains the reality that we experience. So I don't think we're disagreeing at this point. I think we're in agreement that the hard problem solipsism is something that is not solved.
No, you guys are not.
That is an axiom.
No, you're
that
not
we
in
have to
agreement.
assume.
Go back to what he
Further
said. Go back to his second
explore,
statement about the lucid dreams.
Living.
Somehow talking about lucid dreams.
Experiment was to say, hey, back to the fundamental point. We just have to assume that we're actually experiencing people. So the whole idea to that thought experiment was to say, hey, we can hold rational beliefs because it best explains the universe that we live in. Best explains the reality that we experience. So I don't think we're disagreeing.
What's going on? What is going on
we're
here?
in agreement that the hard problem solipsism is something that is not solved. that is an axiom that we have to assume to further explore and observe the world that we live in. Would you agree with that?
No.
I don't know how much we agreed because it seemed like there was definitely more agreement than disagreement. But then when I started asking you if you could know that we were speaking without your senses,
Shane's missing
it seemed like you then turned to the problem of solipsism and said, kind of like I could be dreaming kind of thing.
And then just have everybody look at
if we agreed that we should like kind of go, okay, it could be possible, but we're assuming that the reality we're experiencing right now is real for the sake of this discussion. And if according to those axioms and those presuppositions, yeah, you need to have some empirical senses to arrive at the concept of Shane the Skeptic. You actually don't have to be acquainted with me directly to conceptualize me, but if you have been acquainted with other people, other conversations, then you can build up a concept of me. Arguably not exactly me if you haven't been acquainted with me, but that isn't really the point. Yes, you can conceptualize things, but they are compositions of things that you have been acquainted with formerly through the means of your senses.
He's going down a rabbit hole he doesn't need to go down.
This motherfucker just come out. This sucker talk about dreams. Oh shit, we lost the Ray-Ban.
He'll be back.
What the fuck happened?
Yeah, he'll be back.
Well, we're stuck in oblivion.
Khalil, look at the face. He sucked Ray-Ban into a fucking black hole is what happened.
No. So what happened was Khalil Allah filibustered twice about his lucid dreams, and then redundantly just went, yeah, and that's why with our thought experiment, right, we have to assume minds exist, therefore we can have rational beliefs. Do you agree with me? And Shane just kind of white-splained everything back to him and said, no.
You know what, Taylor? That's a great idea on the recap. The recap is basically us waiting for Khalil to explain why he became a Muslim and what ideas stuck. But when he was about to answer it, he, instead of answering it, asked other questions because I think that he was too afraid to say why he became a Muslim. And he shoved that to the side. And then, he started getting into lucid dreams and then said that he agrees with, we agree. And there was no part in any part of any of those rants that there was any sort of form of agreement at all. Nothing parallel in ideas that happen to butt up against each other. It's all completely different and don't agree. And basically Shane said, we don't agree at all. I don't think
the reason I changed my position is because I had a bunch of lucid dreams.
Oh my god!
Therefore, I with my senses, I don't have to use my senses because I got laser beams shooting in the back of my eyeballs, and I can do this. What's your position? What's your position?
That's what it is.
On hard solipsism.
You're right. That's what it is, huh? He's been lucid dreaming with those 70 virgins.
He can't wait. He can look at his face. He totally can't wait. Oh man, them virgins. Oh, the virgins.
Okay, so how would you show me that it's impossible to have something in a dream state of like, let's just say a baby in the womb? We have found out that from our experiences in our world, assuming that that these preborn children actually have dreams and they think of shapes and things like that. They haven't really experienced any of that yet. So
what?
How do you know that they dream of shapes?
Right. That don't even make any sense to me.
Problem of consciousness too. So how
that's
we
a
get
fucking
that
big claim, don't you think?
We
know that these babies dream of shapes.
Quality over the experience of seeing a red triangle or smelling a cup of coffee.
Right. Well, do we? Well, I'm actually skeptical of the claim that we're able to know that. I mean, dreaming, sure, but if we're saying that fetuses are capable of like dreaming, and those dreams consist of like shapes or colors. I wouldn't really hold this against you too much, but do you have a study to cite that kind of like verifies that? Because
no,
I'm not stating that I hold that position.
We just
Okay,
said
I'm saying if we did,
and had studies to where they have shown explain the quality or the experience of seeing a red
too much. Let me add him to it.
Smelling.
Go back. What did he do?
Right.
Did he just contradict himself?
Well, I'm actually skeptical of the claim that we're able to know that. I mean, dreaming, sure, but if we're saying that.
Wait, go back further.
Fetuses are capable of.
Go back further.
How far?
Then you gotta tell me how far much further.
Maybe like 2 seconds
before
that.
Or 3. So how we get
30
that
seconds.
Neuron firing in the brain to actually.
I just went back 30
the
seconds.
quality or the experience of
Go back a little more.
Seeing a red triangle or smelling.
What is with this red triangle shit?
In a dream state.
No, just talk about
Of like, let's just say a baby in the womb. We have found.
Listen.
That's
right. You got it right here.
From our assuming that other minds exist, that these preborn children actually have dreams and they think of shapes and things like that. They haven't really experienced any of that yet. So how will we? And this kind of almost plays into the the hard problem of consciousness too. So how we get that neuron firing in the brain to actually explain the quality or the experience of seeing a red triangle or smelling a cup of coffee.
Right. Well, do we experience? Well, I'm actually skeptical of the claim that we're able to know that. I mean, dreaming, sure, but if we're saying that
Shane, the medic from Saving Private Ryan,
fetuses are capable of like dreaming, and those dreams consist of like shapes or colors. I wouldn't really hold this against you too much, but do you have a study to cite that kind of like verifies that? Because I'm
not stating that I hold that position.
I'll be right back.
Okay, I was just saying if we did, would that?
There have been neuroscientists and things that have put papers out and had studies to where they have shown empirically.
Excuse Ray Bay, everyone. He's going to go Google.
I'm in disagreement with that because I don't think we could actually pull experience out of chemical reactions. But I mean, to each their own. That's I was just bringing that idea.
Yeah. So I'm going to consider this this puzzle case as okay. So you have a
what is going on?
The fetus hasn't been born yet, and it is dreaming. And it seems like your question is if we could verify that it was dreaming and conceptualizing shapes and colors, would that be a convincing thing for me on the rationalist side? Is that kind of the question?
I mean, yeah. If you want to answer that, that would be fine. I'd also
That's what he's trying. Yeah.
We're using the word "no" a lot, like what we.
Yeah.
That's coming out. This
have a very difference in definition.
Yeah.
This word solid, right? Yeah.
Right. There are actually. Yeah, I made this post. There were 14 definitions of knowledge, and I tried to reduce it to 7. And even if you want to talk to people, you kind of have to reduce it to like 3. And like different definitions of knowledge are being arrived at. It's really tricky. So in respect to the current puzzle case, so when I evaluate a puzzle case or claim, I have to ask myself a sort of intermediate level question would be, what are the necessary conditions for the possibility of X? And then the follow-up question, a little bit more advanced, would be, what are the sufficient conditions for the necessity of X? So if I am given the information that a mind was dreaming and conceptualizing shapes and colors prior to being born, there's one more necessary condition that would be jointly sufficient for me to believe that in the rationalist side, and that would be this: that baby, or I'm sorry, that fetus is also incapable of empirical senses prior to being born. Because if I'm finding out that it's conceptualizing colors and shapes, but then it has empirical senses, I mean, it could be the case that it's able to see something resemblant of a triangle or a square in the womb. Now, is it likely? Probably not. But I would have to say, yeah, if you could show me that they had no empirical senses and that they conceptualized shapes and colors, then each of those necessary conditions would be jointly sufficient. I would probably be a rationalist.
Okay, so if we're kind of going on the whole hard problem solve system route, we can
here comes the hard problem solve system again. Because it's
based
related.
on pure reason. We could actually use induction with this and look in the natural world and see how geometric shapes don't really show up too often in the natural world, especially within the body. Anatomy.
Geometry. Hold up. Pause it.
Is more. It's more of a.
I just got back. You told me to pause something.
Our bodies, like all the guys on TikTok doing the whole thing where their face, that
paused.
Out here saying geometric shapes don't actually show up in the world that much,
which is actually extremely false. Extremely false. Flowers, sound waves, radio waves. They're all geometric shapes. What is he talking about? The way that an aloe vera plant grows out from the ground. It's geometric shapes, right? The Fibonacci sequence. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Well, then what the fuck is he talking about? That we know.
Orange.
We know that geometric shapes don't show up in nature very often. What the fuck is he talking
Young
about?
Muhammad.
Oh, Muhammad. Hey.
Young Muhammad in the house. We're watching Khalil Allah make an ass of himself on the internet.
Oh, man. This is a brutal one. I have to give really mad props to Shane because he's keeping his cool. And I think Shane knows that Khalil Allah is definitely below his train of thought. I'm doing good, as a matter of fact. Muhammad. I hope that you're doing well as well.
Young Muhammad up in the house. Oh my God, the managed to convince Khalil Allah that babies have innate knowledge and logic from Allah. What the fuck? Yeah, they did that. They not only did that, they convinced Khalil Allah to bring this up and immediately backpedal when asked about where he can find this shit in a fucking medical journal. Now he's on to geometry, telling us that we don't find geometric shapes really in reality.
We're on a geometric shape. The Earth.
The moon. We're looking at one every night. No.
I can't, dude.
What's wrong with Bull?
I can't.
He thinking geometric shapes like fucking squares, triangles, and shit. See, that's why they need to get rid of that red triangle fucking argument because it doesn't hold fucking water. When you try to apply logic to bullshit philosophy, it's just not gonna fucking work.
Now,
that red triangle.
Explain red triangle to everyone, especially me. I'm not familiar with the concept.
I ain't familiar with it either. I found out about it through these Muslim philosophers and shit. And what are they called? Fartlosophers. And they don't fucking like. They try to use this thing as like, I guess is the triangle red? Or is it a triangle or some shit like that? I'm like, you fucking kidding me? You fucking kidding me?
Shapes, man. Like when chickens lay eggs and shit. No.
Oh, is that like that whole 2 + 2 = 5 type argument?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Similar line of reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. All right.
Chicken laid eggs, man. Those are symmetrical or geometrical. We don't have an ocean level, right? Sea level.
We definitely have to get Muhammad on here one day to talk with someone. He's dope. I got a chance to kind of stalk his page a little bit, and we may not agree on everything, but very presentable, very knowledgeable.
Yeah,
definitely. I would definitely rather watch Muhammad talk to Shane. To be honest, by far, dude. Oh man. Well, actually, this is actually just a lot of fun.
I don't know if I would.
Yeah, I would probably actually learn something from Muhammad talking with Shane, but this is just kind of fun to laugh at, to be honest. This is a train wreck, unfortunately.
This is terrible train
and
wreck.
It's not.
He's trying to pick up all the geometrical pieces and put the puzzle together, Dustin. Or Khalil.
He wasn't ready, and he still hasn't fixed Shane's epistemology yet.
Yes. I'm waiting for him to pull out the toolkit.
I'm
the tool chest and shit.
He's like, shit, the triangle didn't work.
I think Shane's awesome. Shane can just white explain everything wrong with the statement. He can sit there patiently and collect all the word salad that Justin presents and then put it back together for him. Like, yeah, this is why we don't agree. I got too many olives over here. I got too many tomatoes over here. I got too much carrots over here, and none of this shit has to do with anything that we put in the salad. None of it.
But Shane is also doing it in a very respectful way where he's not being condescending. Like, even though it's almost like he's treating him like a baby that's kind of like figuring out how to read for the first time, and he keeps reading the same words wrong, you know, and he just keeps his cool and is like, no, actually, and I think that Shane is a way better debater than even I could be, because I cut deep and I get a little emotional. Shane really keeps his cool composure and lays out the facts. So Matt props.
He's a gentleman. He's a gentleman.
Yeah,
he's already
is
like,
a gentleman.
dude, this isn't gonna work if we debate right now. It's not
not
gonna work.
I don't think any one of us on this little panel are exactly we can consider ourselves gentlemen when it comes to.
No, I would have already cracked a joke at Justin like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like this guy's like, okay, I do not want to be the guy that pushes the cripple down the stairs here. I want to be as fair and as accommodating as possible. And then look at they managed to Khalil that every significant historical figure was a Muslim, even Jesus. What a mind fuck. Yeah, not only that, they convinced him by just telling him, hey, can you deal with the problem of solipsism? And since he can't, like he said, he's accepted Islam wholesale.
Interesting.
Because he has lucid dreams and he goes like this.
See, and that's why I think that if I would have been in a debate with him, I think that it would have gone off the rails, because a half an hour in, we would still be talking about his lucid dreaming. I guarantee you, because I would be asking him all these fucking questions, because I'm just like, he's full of shit. He's full of shit. So I think we would have gone down a rabbit hole. I think I would have got derailed. I really do.
He's full of axiomatic shit. That's his favorite word. We have to assume it axiomatically.
Axiomatically.
That's what he said.
I hope I spelled that right.
What is this? The innate disposition of belief in supernatural of some being controlling the world is called fitna in Islam. It is quite close to Boomer's intuitionalism. Well, yeah, innate knowledge, because we have babies that have language acclimation skills and shit. We don't really know why. They all speak the same. Like a baby here and a baby in China, they have the same linguistic palette for some reason. And we don't understand that. People have been baffled by that for years. They acquire language. So this has always been an argument for innate knowledge, right? But unfortunately, Khalil Allah, in his year of philosophical studies, does not know this argument. He's busy making shit up about babies dreaming about shapes and not having any study on it.
Yeah, I would
not holding the position, whatever the fuck it was. He said
Intellectually,
whatever he said there.
Would rather have listened to Muhammad talk, have a conversation, not even just debate, Shane, but have a conversation.
Wherever
because
he was trying to go.
Muhammad's comment that last just went over my head. So I'm gonna have to look up browser. It disappeared. I'll read it. I'll look it up. So
I think he rationalized that babies could dream of shapes.
It's right here, and if you hit comments, it's right here in the StreamYard with us. If you hit comments, you'll be able to see it.
Which one? This one?
Oh, there it is. Brower's intuitionalism. Got you. All right, I'll look that up, man.
Flips around and does the mirror image, and how unsymmetrical the body is. So within the natural world.
Wait, what? Unsymmetrical? We're not unsymmetrical. We're unsymmetrical. 2 eyes, nose, ears.
Don't assume he ever know what he fucking talking about.
He doesn't. I don't think he understands what's coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, he said geometrical first. He's conflating the two words, geometrical. First, he was saying that we don't find geometrical shapes in the world. They're not really there. And now he's saying symmetrical shapes. So, yeah.
What the fuck's wrong with this dude?
Watch, go back a little bit. Watch what he says here. This,
Yeah, I was away for a little bit.
Watch, this is
that would be jointly sufficient for me to believe that in the rationalist side. And that would be that baby, or I'm sorry, that fetus is also
nonsense he brought up
incapable
earlier.
of empirical senses prior to being born. Because if I'm finding out that it's conceptualizing colors and shapes, but then it has empirical senses, I mean, it could be the case that it's able to see something resemblant of a triangle or a square in the womb. Now, is it likely? Probably not. But I would have to say, yeah, if you could show me that they had no empirical senses and that they conceptualized shapes and colors, then each of those necessary conditions would be jointly sufficient. I would probably be a rationalist.
Okay, so if we're kind of going on the whole hard problem solipsism route, we can have reasonable beliefs based on pure reason. We could actually use induction with this and look in the natural world and see how geometric shapes don't really show up too often in the natural world, especially within the body. Anatomy, geometry is more of a mathematical thing. It's our bodies, like all the people on TikTok.
The universe is
mathematics.
mathematics.
That flips around and does the mirror image, and how unsymmetrical the body is. So within the natural world, we don't really see those geometric shapes. So if these studies
How
are
unsymmetrical
done,
the body is,
and we can say it's reasonable to believe that they're having this, now we
Is
have to ask the
unsymmetrical a
question,
word?
why?
No.
Would it be
I don't
more
know. Are
reasonable
you
to
guys
say
saying
that
that-
they had
You don't know
some type of sense perception?
Are you
It's
guys
a bunch of
of these
word
colors
salad.
and shapes, or would it be more
He made up his
reasonable
own
to
fucking
believe,
word right there.
that there's something
Unsymmetrical.
innate, that there's something that's actually
Let me
part
look
of
at
the
this. Let me Google this
consciousness,
real quick. Hold on.
that-
And this
that
is no, but
automatically
hold on. You missed his point. You missed his point. His point was because of all this bullshit he just told us that something innate in us. No.
Justin looks like a child that just started teething.
That was the
see
point.
how
He made a
geometric
point.
shapes
Go
don't
back
really
to his
show
point.
up too often in the natural world, especially within the body. Anatomy, geometry
We're
is
unsymmetrical.
more it's more of a mathematical thing. It's our bodies, like all the people on TikTok doing the whole thing where their face, that flips around and does the mirror image.
Oh man,
unsymmetrical, the body is.
unsymmetrical.
So within the
Yeah, let's look
natural
that
world,
up.
we don't really see those geometric shapes. So if these studies are done, and we can say it's reasonable to believe that they're having this, now we have to ask the question.
Unsymmetrical
why?
is a different is a word.
Would
Okay,
it be more reasonable?
it's another
to say
term
that
for
they had
asymmetrical.
some
Hold
type of
on, then you missed his
perception
point.
of these colors.
I didn't
and
miss his
shapes,
point.
or
I'm
would it
listening
be
to him.
more
There's no
reasonable
point to be made, dude.
There
that
was a point to
there's
that
something
nonsense.
innate
Go
that
back.
there's
Keep it
something
Go
going.
back.
Keep it
He's
going.
trying to
Don't
make a
just be
point.
talking like this for an hour, dude.
This is Khalil Kala.
I would have to
Just
give
not
Khalil.
over his fucking point.
skeptic
He's-
answer.
Blessed-
I
all
don't
that
Blessed
nonsense.
knows
if I was
a
in
lot
that
about
position,
Khalil,
based on the
like, there's
information
a
that I
lot-
have,
a lot
I
about
don't think I
Khalil.
have enough necessary to arrive at either of those
Is that safe to
conclusions.
say? Blessed be
So
he?
since I can't arrive,
Huh?
Because he keeps saying that they probably told Khalil. So yeah, I'm sure that blessed be he, that the dude that's commenting in the chat, has watched his transformation and is just as shocked as probably the rest of us. So, yeah, I'm baffled at all of this, and I just don't understand how now he's like YouTube streaming as if he's
All right, Muhammad, we'll see you in an hour.
man. Let's go.
All right, good luck with that, man. I hope you graduate, brother.
Take it easy,
Yeah.
Muhammad. Keep working.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah, work hard, man. Get through that. But this
I've had either of those
all that
conclusions
nonsense
myself.
he just said. The point
I'm-
was because of all this nonsense and shit about not seeing geometric shapes in the world and how unsymmetrical humans are, like on TikTok, whatever the fuck that was. Don't you think it's reasonable to believe we have innate knowledge? What?
I can't believe this
This
socialist actually.
motherfucker's throwing it. It's like,
fucking
look, I got my vape pen and I got my beer. Don't you think that, right? I have the winning lotto ticket in my back pocket.
Mhm.
You can throw anything into that motherfucking jumble of words.
Let's go. Let's move along, man. Oh my God,
I
Shane.
might call them equally
I need to send Shane a fruit basket
unjustifiable or
for being so
justifiable.
patient.
Okay. And I mean that's reasonable.
Yeah, and I am
You're
also
justified.
working within. I'm also working within, like, if I accepted those premises and kind of granting that for the sake of the rest of the argument. But I'm still kind of arriving at they would probably be equally unjustified.
Gotcha. Okay. So like I said, I wanted to get the answer to this question. How do you define knowledge?
So if we are talking about, there are different types of knowledge. There's knowledge by acquaintance, there's non-propositional knowledge, and then there's propositional knowledge. Many people are aware of the JTB analysis, justified true belief analysis of knowledge. For propositional knowledge, the problem with that is there are countless examples of something being true, somebody being justified in believing it, but it not being the case. So I would add this. I would add that. So, are you aware of the distinction between necessary conditions and sufficient conditions? Before I move forward.
So necessary conditions are conditions that could not have been otherwise. Sufficient conditions are conditions that are reasonable for X to have occurred.
Not quite.
Almost. Sort of. So A is a necessary condition of B, means that in order for B to be the case, A must be the case. But it doesn't mean that, but it doesn't mean that A entails B, as to where a sufficient condition would mean that
He's
A
been at this for over a year.
So like oxygen, I give this example. Oxygen is a necessary condition of fire. That doesn't mean if there's oxygen, then there's fire. It does mean that if there's fire, there's oxygen.
I have to step away from I need to get a drink, man.
Three of the necessary conditions for knowledge, propositional knowledge we're talking about here, would be that you would have to believe it, you would have to be justified in believing it, and it would have to be true. But I feel that there is this extra necessary condition that I have a difficult time putting a finger on exactly what it is. And it might just be evidence. Does that person have evidence? If they have evidence and they're justified in believing it, that arguably would be knowledge. It's tricky because since we also use it for knowledge by acquaintance, like I know where I work, I know where I'm from. It's tricky because you can do a meta-analysis of any given belief or thing that you know. And if you do that, eventually you get to either an infinite regress or a point where you realize that even in your propositional knowledge, you use information you've been acquainted with to kind of arrive at it. So defining knowledge, I would have to say awareness of true information, true being consistent with reality. That's the best I could give. And I won't be surprised if I'm critical of that a day later.
Okay. Yeah, so let me just steel man that real quick. So you believe that knowledge is something that is justified and comports with reality?
Yes. But again, I would think those are necessary conditions, not sufficient. So you believing something, being justified in it comporting with reality, those are necessary conditions, but they're not sufficient. So it doesn't mean that therefore you have knowledge. Just that those are some of the requirements for it.
Okay, so you feel like it's also reasonable to have what you would call sufficient beliefs without some type of bonus view of it. If P then Q, that it's absolutely necessary that there are things that you can hold reasonable beliefs in with just the sufficient knowledge of what
Inshallah, blessed be He.
If these variables, X and Y, are present in a situation, you could get this outcome.
Yeah. So, like I said, you would say that okay, you have the necessary things for it for me to be convinced, but again, those could be some of the necessary things. So, it might be the case that no. I don't know if I fully. I'm not sure if I fully understood what your question was. Sorry about that. I might have understood. Could you re-ask it?
A more important call.
You would agree with me that that we both make the distinction between necessary knowledge and sufficient knowledge. So there are variables within.
I don't know if I would put a difference in necessary and sufficient knowledge. I'm talking about necessary and sufficient conditions for arriving at knowledge. So somebody having the necessary conditions for, let's say, elephants that swim, aquatic elephants. If you could show me the necessary conditions for the existence of an aquatic elephant, that wouldn't be a justified reason. That wouldn't be a good reason for being justified in believing in aquatic elephants. You could say, okay, yes, the necessary conditions for aquatic elephants exist, but that wouldn't mean that therefore you're justified in believing in aquatic elephants. So I
Okay.
think my answer's no.
So you would hold more of like a fallibilist view.
I don't think so. I don't know if I entirely I don't know if I accurately understand fallibilism, in all honesty, because when I hear people describe it, they kind of define it differently, kind of like with metaphysics, where like every lecture you watch kind of starts with a different definition. So how are you defining that term of fallibilism?
So, fallibilism
Very, very
is
smart,
the
ladies and
ability
gentlemen. You
to
always
to
want to
know
make
that
them
there-
define their
most
term
things in
that
the
they're
world
trying
we
to
don't
use.
have like true knowledge
Very
for.
smart. I like
I
Shane.
pulled up some
I'm a
notes
fan.
here, looking at some of the terms that I
Here,
think
go
would
back.
be
Go back to what he asked. What
for
he's
us to
asking
talk
about fallibilism.
Mhm.
Go back.
So
back.
you would hold more of like a fallibilist view.
You know what fallibilism is?
I don't think so. I don't know if I entirely I don't know if I accurately understand fallibilism, in all honesty, because when I hear people describe it, they kind of define it differently, kind of like with metaphysics, where like every lecture you watch kind of starts with a different definition. So how are you defining that term of fallibilism?
So fallibilism is the ability to know that most things in the world we don't have like true knowledge for. I pulled up some notes here, looking at some of the
A
terms. that I think
fallibist
would be
believes that no
good for
belief
us to
is
talk
certainly
about.
true.
So
There's
yeah,
no
so
belief in
from
certainty.
the notes that I was taking, fallibilism, it's the epistemological thesis that no belief, theory, view, thesis, and so on can ever be
The
rationally
notes he was
supported or
taking, you mean
justified
him just
in a
typing it into
conclusive
Google right
way.
now?
Always should be
There remains
certainly
a
true.
possibility,
That's what a
possible
fallibist
doubt
believes.
as to the
There's no
truth of the
certain
belief.
truth.
So when you're talking about sufficient variables and saying, did you say that you didn't really make a distinction between necessary variables or necessary conditions and sufficient conditions?
No, there's a distinction between
What the fuck
them,
is he
but then
doing?
after that, you said something about necessary knowledge and
No.
sufficient knowledge, and that I'm not familiar with. I'm familiar with there being necessary and sufficient conditions, and necessary conditions are, of course, each of them would be a requirement for.
Listen,
Pause that
he-
shit.
I
You
don't-
see
I don't
what just
think so.
I
happened?
wouldn't mean that
You
if
see that
you
shit?
have those
This
necessary
motherfucker
conditions,
went and
you would
Googled,
be justified
read the
in
definition of
believing in it.
fallibilism.
Yeah. So when I say necessary knowledge, those are things that I would consider, axiomatic. Like, for example,
Right.
There we
Oh,
go.
he did it
laws of
again.
Oh
logic,
no,
the
not
law of
again.
identity is necessary.
No, I'll
knowledge
take a
that we
drink.
have
I'll take
to
a drink.
have
He was
even as a
axiomatic.
newborn child to realize
He-
that this thing that takes care of us, that we are eventually going to call mom, is not mom, right? So that's knowledge that is assumed from birth, that is necessary for us to even have experiences.
Is that
Right.
knowledge?
So that's kind of what I mean
This
by
guy's
by
such a hand
by
talker.
necessary knowledge. Like
Just
sufficient
talks with his
knowledge
hands.
would be more of like a JTB. That would be something
A
that's
justified
you've
true belief.
experienced. You're justified in your experience. You hold that as a belief because of your experience, and then you have some type of means, which that's kind of where it goes up in the air on how people think it's justified to add the true, the true with a capital T in there into the justified true belief phrase.
A fallibilist is somebody who doesn't believe anything is certainly true. This guy just said he wouldn't believe it's certainly true unless there was conditions met. The same as an
do you see where I'm
empiricist.
going there with when I
Yes,
bring
he's
up
a fallacious.
necessary knowledge.
Google's the
versus,
word
sufficient
fallacious.
knowledge.
Yeah, it just got confusing
If I
because
do
we
my
sort
own
of
thing
like
down.
went from necessary and sufficient
Fallacious?
conditions to like necessary and sufficient knowledge without like a really clear transition. So I think that's kind of where I started getting confused.
I understand.
Yeah.
So the way that I was kind of going through.
You're talking about the Latin word, right?
Head, is
Yeah,
you're saying
pause
that
it,
there
man.
are certain
For the love
conditions.
of God,
Those
pause this
conditions
shit.
obviously would
No,
be within
not
the
that
world that
fallacious.
we experience, that we share,
You know what
the reality that we share together.
Yeah.
So with having those conditions, you would need
Penis.
some type of necessary knowledge
Penises.
to even be able to perceive those conditions as your experience.
Pause the fucking
For
video.
example, you would need to know
This is
if
too much.
Oh my god, I can't do this guy
We have to
anymore.
pause it for we can only take this in small doses, guy. The guy first, he asked the guy if he was a fallibilist, which was completely fucking non sequitur.
Yeah, 100%.
And he said, I don't really know how people define the word fallibilist. How are you defining it? And he went, Fallibus is and then Googles it. Gets
In
the
my
right
notes.
definition. A fallibus is somebody that doesn't believe anything certainly true. No beliefs hold certainty in truth. Right? He reads the definition, doesn't realize it's completely non sequitur, and double down on it. Are you a fallibilist based on this? And so, no, I don't think I'm a fallibilist. I don't even think I said that. I'm an empiricist guy. I want these necessary conditions. All right. I want to see something. I want to be able to write that when I see it, it's in my brain. I got a picture so I can conceptualize. Well, there's probably another one like this because it's blue. Because I've seen a bird that's white and I've seen a bird that's black. Who says there's not a bird that's blue? That
Taylor.
wouldn't be that unusual to me. Justin
Taylor,
still don't understand that. So he's talking, well, it's axiomatic. Well, there's justified. There's certain knowledge and conditions. I say condition knowledge. I say
Now I understand, Taylor, why you named this particular episode Dunning-Kruger. I totally
Word
get
vomit.
it. I totally get it, dude. Well done. That was a beautiful name for an episode. Yeah, I don't think I could have picked a better one, hands down.
With the word vomit.
Yeah.
With his words, he's spitting these words out. And he doesn't know what they mean. The guy is Khalil versus words. Axiomatic.
Hold on. And to also recap, the entire point of these two interacting was because Khalilullah apparently told Shane, I'm going to fix your epistemology. So we are 30 minutes and 34 seconds into their conversation, and I have seen no attempt to fix any sort of epistemology at all whatsoever. So
We're the hard solipsist.
to come along. I'm still waiting for Khalilullah to just drop the nuke, you know.
You missed the part where he said he's a hard solipsist, and he in his mind, he's the only mind that exists. He just assumes that guy exists. So he's whooping, like in Khalil Allah's mind, he's whooping him to kingdom come. But to us, to the rest of the world, axiomatically, all right, we're watching Khalil struggling to get out of a paper bag.
Have you ever seen that episode of South Park where Kenny gets addicted to cat piss?
Oh yeah, classic.
That's what this is. So Kenny, Khalilullah is like Kenny when he's in heaven, like heavy metal status with chicks with big breasts, but in like real life, he's actually like laying on the floor, fucking making random sounds covered in cat urine.
He hijacked our video and told us we're all philosophically bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not financially bankrupt, but definitely philosophically bankrupt.
He hijacked us, and I asked him, "Well, dude, do you think it looks good to my Muslim viewers like Mo and Young Muhammad and what's his name, Turd and Quran only? If they see a guy with a big beard and a kufi come hijack us, you think that looks good for the community?" He said, "No." What do you say? No, but do I look good for the motorless brain rot? It's some weird shit.
Oh, that's my brother.
The guy's got a whole bunch of words in his mouth, but he doesn't have.
Your brother's dying?
He, as in laughing. Come on, man. He's dying.
Oh. He's dying now. Shit.
Otherwise, I'd be a lot more concerned.
I love the Shane guy. The Shane guy sits there and he takes it in like we can't. He takes it in and he calculates. The calculator supercomputer brain he's calculating. Okay, how can we put this into an intelligible sentence for everyone else? And then repeat it back so everyone can know what we're both talking about. This is my good deed for the day.
I honestly I have to search Shane out and give him little props in a non toxic way. You know what I'm saying? I just gotta give him a couple likes because
the guy's
it's incredible. I never would have been able to sit there the way that he is. There's just no way.
He's sitting there. He's taking all the word vomit and he's collecting it. It's like he's playing Scrabble. Justin's throwing the words on the table and Shane's taking them. Okay, we can make this into an intelligent sentence. It might sound better if I re-ask your question.
But Taylor, he has a cool fucking chair, a microphone, and a badass beard.
That he strokes ever so gently.
You have to.
Like he's a motherfucking super villain. It's like he's plotting the end of the world.
My brother Dan, you want to see a magnificent beard? A Spartan beard? my brother Dan, that's watching right now, this fool has a Spartan beard. That's a real beard, not a Muslim beard, a fucking Spartan beard. You get it, boy. You get
This
it.
fucker's getting attacked. He's getting a. Wow, we're only like a quarter way through this too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to skip some of this shit and get to something.
Perfect. All right.
Like
I'm on for that. No, I'm just kidding.
Red
Wow,
triangle.
what are we gonna miss? We're gonna miss the good stuff, man. How
Like,
the fuck you
do
gonna?
you know where you know where the good
And
stuff is at?
sufficient.
He doesn't know the difference between sufficient conditions and sufficient knowledge. The fucking idiots talk past that point several times.
Oh my goodness.
Conditions.
He's done it.
Yet you can make a distinction with them when you break them down and look at them. But when you're investigating those claims, there's some type of necessary knowledge that you must have to even know that oxygen is oxygen and not oxygen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a necessary knowledge that you have to have when we arrive at things like
No, shit, it's
you
fucking
stated,
fart.
the law of identity. You know, I have to be able to know that mom cannot be mom and not mom. Is that necessary knowledge? I could say, yeah. I don't think it would be one of those sort of. I think a lot of people might feel that is a sort of a priori knowledge, but I would disagree with that because I think that you become acquainted with mom and the concept and like other identities to be able to even make that inference. So, sure, I guess. I think we might be in agreement on this.
Okay.
Poor Shane doesn't even know if he's in agreement. I think he's just trying
let's
to
just say that
bridge
you
some
need
sort
that
of, like,
experience
gap
of mom
between them
to be
make
able to
some kind
hold
of
this
just,
axiomatic
like, I
view
guess for agreement, I think.
of mom,
Maybe.
not mom. So
Whatever the
if
fuck
you're
you're
having an
saying.
experience, do you have the ability to even comprehend how this could be not an experience?
No. That's kind of like the I think therefore I am thing, you know, where people are like, well, what if you're being tricked into thinking you exist? But it's like I have to be being tricked, right? So yeah, I have to exist in some way or another for that. I have to have, like, I can't say that like I'm not having any experience. Like the fact that I'm having some kind of experience of something is like the best example of an axiom. Like it's just self-evident. I can't reason myself into it. Like I just think it.
Okay. To kind of keep the conversation moving along, I'm curious to know if you hold more
yeah, like it was at a fucking standstill.
Materialistic view, or are you some type of like
Mr. Unsymmetrical
dualist, or hold to like some type of idealism?
No, tell us.
I would definitely
epistemology.
Khalil, materialism.
Tell us.
Although I do tend to read definitions of materialism.
Well, you see what's
that are
happened, right? He's realized that there's no fucking way he's
there
going
not
to be
being
able to
anything
change anything.
metaphysical or
There's
anything
no way
outside the
to
natural
anything
world
to
or
change.
anything
So now he's
supernatural.
become an
I wouldn't hold to that kind of definition. My materialism is on par with my atheism, where I lack a reason to believe that anything outside the material world exists. And you know, since I'm acquainted with the natural elements, principles, and relations between them, I do have reasons for belief in those things. Since I don't have experience of anything supernatural, I'm left without experience or justification for believing in those things. So materialism would be accurate.
Okay. So within materialism,
Okay.
That would entail that you believe that the mind itself it's most reasonable to believe that the mind itself is a byproduct or emergent property of the brain itself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I argue that the consciousness itself is something that is separate from the physical brain, yet uses the physical brain as a tool to function? For example, like I told you before we went live, I'm an AC mechanic. So if I have a tool, and let's just say it's a screwdriver, correct, and I'm working on a system, and my screwdriver breaks, does that mean that I'm broke?
Yes.
No, I'm still an AC. I'm still an AC technician.
Sure.
There's nothing broke about me. It's the tool that I use to function properly that's broke. So would it be reasonable also to believe that the mind is something that's separate from the brain?
Hold on, but if you're an
uses it as
AC
a
mechanic
tool
and you
to
have
function
to
properly,
use your
and
screwdriver
the
to
evidence
fix
that I
that,
would
and
use
it's
for
the
that
only
is
thing
the
you
exact
have
same
to
evidence that
fix
you would
that
use
AC,
to
aren't you
describe it as
essentially
some type
broke
of
as an
emergent
AC
property.
repairman?
If I hit you over the head with a sledgehammer,
Right, because you
your
ain't gonna get
brain
paid.
is now
You're not going to fix it.
it's discombobulated. It's damaged some sort
They're
of way.
like, you didn't bring your fucking hammer.
You would say that the consciousness,
right.
is damaged also. But I would argue that the consciousness is just not able to use its tool, the physical brain, properly. What are your feelings on that?
My feelings are that if I accepted the premise that the mind could exist independent of the brain, that if I accepted that premise, then it would follow that damaging the brain wouldn't necessarily have to damage the mind. However, even in a world where I accepted that premise, if every example I had of the mind being altered, or I should say the physical brain being
I bet he
altered,
can't fix an AC either.
seems to do that to the mind, I would say that, yeah, we would have to say that the mind is too flawed because its context-specific mechanism for any interpretation is flawed. So it's the flaws with the brain would still carry to the mind in that circumstance too.
Wow.
So what would you say?
Hold on.
Wait. Was that?
What was that sound? Was that a text message sound?
What?
Was that some Muslim sound? Was that a Muslim ringtone?
Muslim music. I think he's watching Muslim porn in the background while he's trying to debate. I think that's what that is. What was that? Was that a text message?
He's literally, yeah, I think it was a text message. Come on, bro.
Go back where he just sidesteps the whole fucking point.
Go back to that sound.
Flawed because its context-specific mechanism for any interpretation is flawed. So it's the flaws with the brain would still carry to the mind in that circumstance too.
So what would you say makes it more reasonable to believe that the mind
He's
is an
3
emergent
weeks
property
in
rather
to
than
being a
something
Muslim
that's external
from an
when
atheist, and now
given both of the arguments we're using the exact same data to argue our points?
Yeah, so we're not though, I don't think, because all the evidence that we have seems to indicate that the mind is a brain dependent thing. In that it not only does the brain exist within the material world, but it's influenced by other material things. And you can't have a brain being influenced by something like, say impact with a sledgehammer without the mind too being influenced. So if it appears that everything that makes it up exists within the material world, and it can be altered by other material things, then I'm not being unreasonable at saying it seems that everything that we have to point at says that this is something that exists within the material world. It's like, where does the mind go when the brain dies is similar to asking, where did my computer go when it broke? That stuff in your computer, like it isn't still there and now it's somewhere else. If the makeup of it is destroyed, then so too is the mind.
I wouldn't find that analogous though. And for example, just looking at the Chinese room.
Analogous.
Dude, that's not
the computer itself.
We got another big word right there.
Go back to that.
Consciousness itself hasn't been brought down to such a level
is the mind.
I wouldn't find that analogous though. And for example, just looking at something like the Chinese room, the computer itself, the software in the computer is binary coded.
How is it analogous to what we're talking about? For example, this.
Been brought down
therefore, yours is not analogous to what. Do you know what analogous means?
I mean, I can understand.
Taylor, this is symmetrical.
Smash a computer.
Taylor, this is symmetrical.
Where does
what we're talking about?
Well, the software.
Way.
It doesn't exist anymore because the binary code itself is dependent on the hardware.
He's axiomatically explaining this bullshit.
And I'm not gonna press you for any specific studies or anything like that. But when you say
why not?
It seems that
because he couldn't provide any
sufficient data
for his bullshit.
What data would you be referring to?
Mostly like neuroscientific data, psychological analysis. When we look at the chemicals in the brain, how they interact with our mind states. So if we look at the fact that if I lack serotonin, I'm not able to be as happy, as I would be if I had serotonin. So if we're able to examine the brain and go, here are the chemical processes and the way that a charge at a synapse works and everything like that, and here's what happens when there's more of this chemical. You have more melatonin, you're sleepy. You have more serotonin, you're happy. We're able to look at its mechanisms. You have a charge at a synapse, and that leads to a thought. Then those are the kind of things that I would be referring to.
I would like to talk to Shane
to the best of my ability, and I'm glad you said you're not going to press very hard, but to the best of my ability, after the fact, I'll try to leave a few comments to those types of studies indicating that the mind is material.
Okay. So, and this is kind of what I was getting at when I was saying that we kind of use the same standards, the same data itself, because what I would say as a
argument against the simulation theory.
When you add serotonin to the brain, or you add dopamine to the brain, you are actually putting the brain, the tool itself, back in a position where the consciousness, which is external to it, can use it more properly. Can actually it opens more doorways. I mean, I think you would say pathways within within neuroscience.
Taylor, this is like watching a fucking 3-year-old
in that same sense, the same evidence that you
on the
would
side
use
of the
to
road
say that it's an emergent property. I would say that the tool just becomes better.
That he
starts
still
to say
that
this
and actually starts to teach him epistemology.
And
right,
what you've done there is you've solved the easy problem of consciousness, but yet we still have the hard problem of consciousness, is being able to
be sued for
experience out of there. And as far as I know,
epistemological malpractice
on qualia.
Right, but if we're to say, like, if your argument is valid and what you're saying is that if the brain being affected meant that the consciousness was affected, but that doesn't speak to the validity or the reliability of the consciousness, but rather just to the brain itself. The problem with that is we still haven't proven that there is some consciousness independent of the brain. So when I'm going off of this is the information that I have, the brain's makeup, what happens, how it's affected by these different things, I'm going off of here's everything I have and what we conclude from it. And when you add this extra component of this material independent part of the mind, then I can't really tell you which inferences it would or wouldn't be true about it, considering the fact that if it wasn't proven yet. So I guess your analogy makes sense, but you would still say that, okay, if you have some consciousness that is independent of your mind, your use still depends on your broken tool.
I bet you $100.
So
is wishing that he
you're
never
still stuck having to use
right
broken
now.
tools for the job.
Okay, so this kind of ties back into the whole epistemology thing. Because what you're stating is that that's the whole bit of dialogue that you had.
Wasn't this what the conversation was about?
Been able to prove this, that it would, you get where I'm coming from, but we still haven't been able to prove that this is external.
Right. Well, and the only reason it's a problem is because your analogy, it sort of seemed like you were using, like if you were trying to arrive at there being some mind independent consciousness. So like if we're just sticking away from the epistemological aspect and just the ontological question of what it means that the consciousness can be not flawed in the way that the brain is, maybe, but as far as our experience goes,
because I would have told Justin
everything
to
that
shut the fuck up
indicates
42 minutes ago.
You're stuck with the broken tools. So if it existed like that, sure, maybe we could call it
dead naming a Muslim the
reliable,
same cancellation factor
you don't have
as
access
like
to the unflawed aspect of it. Yeah, but
so what I would say to that is that yes, I would agree with you that we have not proven. And I think I know what you mean by proven. Proven is more of a mathematical term, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So when it comes to proving things, in the sense that you're speaking, I don't think that we've proven that it's emergent. I think that we have our ideas and we can draw up reasonable conclusions. I think it's reasonable to believe that the mind is an emergent property of the brain. And I also think that it's reasonable to believe that that it could be something that's external. And the reason why, the justification that I have for it being external is the fact that there is something that we've been working on for a really hard time, or for a really, really long time, And Donald Hoffman goes into this a lot. He's I'm sure you're aware of Donald Hoffman, atheist philosopher, who's actually a dualist because of this issue of the hard problem of consciousness, is that there's still something out there that we have not been able to tied to the material world. It's still something else that's different out there. So that other thing that is consciousness, that is qualia, that is experience,
and that something else is Allah. Death to all Jews.
Must be Allah.
Damn, dude.
That could
This
be
guy's
the
a fucking
reasonable
joke,
justification to give me a JTB
Makes no
to
sense.
say that, hey, we have sufficient variables here to say that it's something that's external.
Because of the fact that our observation of the processes of the mind leads us to conclude that when the cause for consciousness, that is brain activity, ends, so too does its effect. Unless you want to say it goes somewhere and we just have no way of interpreting it. But as far as our ability to interpret, analyze consciousness goes, we can look at the effects of it. We could look at the causes of it and see what happens when those causes end.
Can we have a show on
what
that?
seems to happen when those causes end is that so too does the effect that is consciousness.
Mm-hmm. So what are your feelings on some of these studies that have been done? And I'm not stating whether these are true or false. I'm pretty agnostic on it. But these stories of people, going into surgery.
Pretty agnostic on it.
And when they go into surgery and they get put under.
In this entire interview,
for some reason they're able to get up and feel themselves, aka leave their body, walk down the hall, see their
because every time when
their
he does,
mother getting something out of the vending machine,
like a bag of chips.
She
see what
eats
he's
the
doing
bag
right
of
now?
chips, throws the bag of chips away, and then when he comes back to post
this is how I know.
He says, "Hey, Mom, did you go get some?"
He's talking about what about these people that are saying they're having all these out of body experiences after making analogy as well. The mind is like a broken tool for someone in comatose and euphoria. Their mind is just a broken tool. The conscious exists. Now he's asking us what it's like for these consciouses to work with the broken tool. Don't you know what it's like to fix ACs with a broken tool, jackass? You gotta improvise, and it's not very good. It takes a long time, and it's very stressful.
Yeah,
you don't have a good experience.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kitty.
My God, dude.
Jeez Louise, man. And that's just assuming he's actually
fast forward some of this shit, dude. Fast forward, man. I can't do the whole thing, dude. We gotta jump into something else juicy. Do they get heated after this point? I only watched the first half an hour.
Yeah, does Shane threaten this guy's life or something? Does he have an outburst, an angry outburst? I want to see some outbursts. Oh my gosh!
I want to see Justin actually make some sort of actual claim on anything that he believes. He keeps backtracking and then he keeps saying that both sides are understandable, and then he kind of says, well, this is why I think this one side might be okay. But he's not speaking to Shane in a way that would teach him.
He's parroting the stupid shit. He's parroting the shit he hears on calls and shit, and trying to put it together. It's like,
is he though? But is he even parroting it?
Well, he's rehashing. He's trying to. He's attempting to. This is Dunning-Kruger country with Justin.
Yeah. You're right. That's the title of this episode.
We're in DK country right now with Justin Downing.
DK country. That's awesome.
This motherfucker's eventually gonna make himself smarter than he actually is by listening to these guys on Facebook and taking all the shit they say and presenting it to somebody who has no fucking clue what they're talking about. And then that will be the dog that had his day. He'll sit down with somebody who has no idea what's being said to him, and he'll be like, well, at least I know bigger words than you do. How is that analogous?
All right. Let's continue. This is
amazing.
This is analogous to sipping tea without sugar.
We already know what was going on in Justin's mind. He made it perfectly clear to us.
All right, here we go.
Mental masturbation.
Even evolution. I have to have verified everything that went into proving evolution.
What a skip.
Then if I were to do that, evolution would probably be the only thing that I knew. So, our beliefs, I might not be able to explain the entire.
All right, let me see something.
He's getting into it.
I would say.
Yeah, let's look at some comments real quick. Let's take some comments and shit from the crowd. Let's take a look at this. See what the feedback of some of the audience was. I see a few good friends there.
There's a problem with that question, and the problem with that question is that it assumes that I would try to use empirical evidence to arrive at a supernatural conclusion.
I'm trying to find
empiricism is what you use to evaluate the natural world. Anything that you ask about supernatural claims, I would say, yeah, I can't use my empiricism to arrive at that. I can't expect any type of empirical data to use to arrive at that. So my empiricism takes me to conclusions within the natural world, and I'm lacking something outside of my empirical senses that could take me to a supernatural.
Just real quick, good friend of ours, James is tired, ladies and gentlemen.
James, shout out to James.
Shout out to his channel and whatnot. Give this guy a good watch.
Yeah,
he has hard hitting exposés and interviews and whatnot with many folks in the debate communities and atheists, Christians, all people of all walks of life and shit and whatnot. You know, just take a look. Great conversations to be had.
Hit that bell.
Hit that bell.
Don't blow it up though.
Trying to look here for the next question. Okay, I think this one is for you. From Junius Norris. If consciousness is dependent upon what already exists, how could a consciousness create the universe? Or actually, I think that's a question for me.
Probably for you.
Okay, yeah. So consciousness is dependent upon what already exists. I would actually disagree with that, and I would make the argument that a consciousness is actually fundamental with any type of information transfer that we have. For example, Shane being able to hear what I'm saying, articulate what I'm saying, and then send a message back to me. It would state with my mind being able to articulate the sounds that are coming out of my mouth into the microphone, traveling all the way to Shane. Shane hearing these sound waves go through his ears, articulating with his mind what I'm saying, and then in the same fashion send something back. So within information transfer, I kind of look at it as it starts and ends with the consciousness itself.
Yeah, and my
response to that didn't even answer the question.
Translation.
So it does.
Did he answer the question?
He said, I think he said, yeah. He's saying yes. I think it begins and ends with consciousness. So that would be yes. But then what he said in the middle was like, no, it's dependent on all these things, like his microphone. Who knows what the fuck the guy's talking about? And where the fuck did Sweet Baby Ray go?
Oh, no.
We got left alone.
Yeah. We need to bring him back on for that sauce.
Maybe he had to,
the sauce master.
He had to go do some black guy stuff.
I'm telling you, that's a dope shirt. I wish that I could pull that shirt off, but I can't.
Oh, yeah. Check out the new DTF apparel, ladies and gentlemen. We got our summer
DTF.
Team. Flame the fuck up. We got our summer beanies.
You got beanies in?
Yeah, we're not
playing. Shut the fucking front door, dude. Take my fucking money. Take it.
We're not playing.
Take my money, Taylor.
Yeah, I'll send you one. I got one right here for you.
Oh, beautiful.
I'll send it when the hats come in.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, we got the DTF apparel.
I'll sport that when I'm paintballing too. So when I get all my paintball shots in, and then
the devil's going over. We're sitting in the flames, right, taking in a whole whooping from DK Country. Up and it's back. The video is finally up, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry about that. I dropped my mouse.
He walked outside of the. So Justin's here filibustering a question where he's loosely saying yes, he believes that without directly addressing the question.
Hey, yo, bro.
How does a conscious create the universe? He's telling us
you need to be wearing a shirt,
but not quite how.
You need to wear a shirt out here.
And remember, this is why he believes in God. Remember this. He's a lucid dreamer.
Nobody wants to see that shit. Man, titties and whatnot.
We gotta make a soundbite of that where he says he's a lucid dreamer and goes like this. That's the best fucking explanation for Khalil Allah there ever was. Right there. That's the most clear thing he's ever said to anyone. Is the reason I arrived at my position is because are you a hard solipsist? I have lucid dreams.
Lucid dream having ass. Shit.
That is what it looks like when
these sound waves go through his ears, articulating with his mind what I'm saying, and then in the same fashion send something back. So within information transfer, I kind of look at it as it starts and ends with the consciousness itself.
Yeah, and my response to that question was going to be, and I figured you would disagree with the first part of that question, and then I disagree with the second part of it. And yeah, it sounds like I was accurate in that.
Here's a tongue-in-cheek question.
What a fucking nice guy.
What's the difference between epistemology and atheist epistemology?
He's really nice.
All right, let me try to best answer that one.
I'm saying I called him a dumb fuck. You dumb motherfucker.
Epistemology.
Oh, please tell me. Oh, I paused it. Okay, my bad.
You would be saying epistemology dependent on the lack of a God belief. And epistemology, I mean, epistemology doesn't depend on the absence of a God belief. So, yeah, atheist epistemology, depending on how it's used, is kind of confusing. Is there a difference? I mean, atheist epistemology would be an example of someone's epistemology. So, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and I would just say that that was a I'll openly admit that was a bit of a clickbaity title that I put on the video, atheist epistemology, because I did put it.
He's running with the nickname I gave him.
I shared on the Facebook are atheists, like firebrand atheists or nonconformists. Or most of the groups that I'm still in. Normally, I get a whole bunch of crap from the atheists now that I've converted to Islam. So I figured, hey, we're having an atheist on the show. Maybe if I put atheist in here, they'll be like, oh, okay, let's check it out.
Yeah, I think definitely they're more likely to watch content if they are like, oh, you have an atheist on.
From one atom. There's materialistic.
Dude,
does that not invalidate your consciousness is
level,
dependent on
even
material?
next level from my fire, dude.
Assuming that there is a conscious being.
Smart,
yeah,
I'm insulting you and you don't even fucking know it.
Them with the roasts
validates my claim. I mean, I don't make that assumption, but like, yeah, if I were to make that assumption, that would invalidate my claim. It's almost a tautological question, I feel.
Gotcha. Okay. Next one is from Zirab Jamal. Question for Shane: how do you deal with the problem of future contingents as it is outlined by Aristotle and Diodorus in the master argument before him?
Well, I am pretty well read on Aristotle. I haven't got around to anything about contingency or necessity. I am currently reading the Metaphysics by Aristotle. So, and I haven't read anything by Diodorus. So I have to say that I'm unequipped for an answer, and I apologize.
That's okay. At least you're truthful.
Yeah.
Maybe he can he can lucid dream later on.
I will look into that question after the fact. That is something that for my own knowledge, I'll try to find an answer for.
Still looking here. There's a lot of comments, which I do appreciate all the comments. Does anybody have any more questions for Shane? Truth and knowledge. What's going on, Truth?
Hey, don't want any questions for you.
Oh, hey, look at that. There we go.
No,
lies and deceit.
I hold to a view that is a little bit different from what most people are familiar with, but I hold to a view that is known as optimistic nihilism. Not nihil in respect to like not thinking anything exists, because that's one form of nihilism. But I find that life's meaning not being intrinsic gives us the opportunity to assign meaning to things. So I don't think there's intrinsic meaning, but I do think that we can have meaning just that it's not intrinsic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think I understand.
Yeah, when I was an atheist, I considered myself
3 weeks ago
a moral nihilist in the sense that I didn't believe that there was any objective meaning or purpose in life, that it was all subjective, and I just, created my own meaning and had my own purpose. And, like I used to make the argument that, if you get shot in the lung, like your lung was there to take a bullet, like that was its purpose. You could subjectively say that.
What?
now, now that I'm a theist, I disagree with that, and I think that there is some type of objective purpose.
Magically
But
delicious.
to have a moral argument with an atheist
Out of nowhere,
about, objective morality or something like that, I think is completely pointless. I don't think we're going to get it.
How can you be an atheist and believe in predestination?
Is to say that I have a subjective opinion that there is an objective morality out there, and I will never ever be able to prove that to you until you die and and go to the Creator on Judgment Day. But that's completely meaningless to you, being somebody who doesn't believe.
Yeah, but it's sort of a problem with that kind of moral philosophy. Is it tells
been a Muslim forever,
have the same beliefs that I have in these premises,
but I know
and I won't be able to convince you of this. As to where if you look at people like John Stuart Mill in his book Utilitarianism, John Stuart Mill is a Christian. He's one of my favorite philosophers. He's a Christian, and one of the reasons he puts forward a moral philosophy that isn't dependent on his theism is because it allows people who are non-theists to put that same moral philosophy in practice. So, like my pleasure-based moral systems, kind of deriving from Aristotle, Hume, John Stuart Mill, these are systems that are not dependent on materialism or atheism. So you could disagree with me on materialism or on atheism, and the rest of the argument could still be convincing to you, or at least still comport with your philosophy. So I guess that's the response I have there.
Okay. Good question from my good friend James is tired. Question for Shane. This goes to a yelling match that we had about 2 hours ago between myself and James. What is an axiom? An
axiom is also referred to as an axiomatic fact, but also
he spelled it wrong.
One of those sort of presuppositions.
What is an axiom?
Reason yourself into.
Justin, you don't know how to read.
Okay, so one of the examples that we give is I exist. I exist. I didn't reason myself into believing that. It's self-evidently true. So examples that I provide of axioms are my existence, that words have some kind of meaning, again, not intrinsic, but if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm working with the axiom that words are able to convey ideas.
Hey Taylor, can you do me a favor?
So words having meaning, me existing.
Can you make a Photoshop image of Khalil flying?
Now, James, I want you to focus on when Shane
saying,
said that
I'm the man of your dreams.
Axioms cannot be reasoned to. And would you agree, in other words, that these
I
are
just
things
those little funny
assumed?
fucking Photoshop things to do?
An axiom is by definition assumed. You don't reason
like
yourself into it.
A body flying over time and space.
I am sorry if I have to put down some atheists who've made that argument, but the reality is
them lucid dreams and
you're
shit.
Reasoning yourself into axioms. I would encourage you to reevaluate what axioms.
No, he's a Christian, but He's a really good friend of mine. James is tired. I want to plug his channel real quick. He's got a channel.
Justin, you're all too late for that. I had already plugged it before you did.
You talked to him. He's had Aaron Ra on to talk to him. He's had me on before. He's had quite a few guests.
We've had Aaron Ra on.
Subscriptions up. So if you
and we've had Justin on
James is tired channel.
Right. You know what? Yeah.
Love. He has like 1 hour shotgun debates. That are really short. Doesn't take up too much of your time. You can listen to a full debate on the way to work in the morning, or you could listen to like a half-hour interview conversation that he has with people. So I check James is tired out. Really good buddy of mine. I apologize for screaming at you earlier today, but I think you deserved it.
Wow.
Okay, so out of respect for the people
wait. Let me unwrap that real quick.
It was just the Islam taking over. I'm sorry. I'm Muslim now. Forgive me.
I'm sorry for yelling at you, but you
God.
deserved it. Wow. Oh, James is tired. You don't have to take that crap from him.
Yeah, you don't have to, James. He Khalil, that hates Jews now. So, and
I'm going to say this. I've yelled at Justin. And I've apologized to Justin for what I did. But I never followed it up with, but you deserved it. That's just insane.
I've never yelled at him. I've only laughed at him. And that's why he fucking hates me, dude. That's why he blocked me. That's why he kicked me off all the platforms. Because I don't yell at him because I just treat him like we're treating like this review. I treat him like he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And he says the most hilarious shit. He doesn't realize that he's like a court jester. He doesn't quite get it.
He doesn't.
He doesn't. So that's why he really hates me, is because I won't yell at him. I just laugh, dude. I just laugh. He's just too funny, dude. It really grinds his gears.
Yeah, one time it was the last little debate we were having. My voice was like really loud, but I was chilling and whatnot. You know, when I'm debating something passionately, you know, I get excited about it. You know, that I'm passionate about. I get really excited. He's like, "Well, you see, you're getting upset." I'm like, "Nigga, I ain't getting upset. I am not getting upset. My voice just gets really high because I'm excited. Okay, it's because I'm excited."
The trick, his kryptonite. I'm telling you, his kryptonite is when you chuckle, laugh, and that's what sets him off. That's what gets him really yelling. That's what gets him like threatening you. That's what gets him sliding into your DMs, sending like 7 voice texts. I'm telling you, that's what it is. Is that it's just the laugh. It's the
how dare you giggle at me?
Yeah.
How dare you giggle at what I said?
Yeah, it's a little too easy, unfortunately, but you know, whatever. And
may
now
Allah take your 72 virgins and take them for himself.
Fast forward a little bit, man. My girl feels like shit.
So I do want to try and get to every question. So Daz Greenwood has a question. I have to wait for him 4 minutes until my missus comes into the car. I need to fart. Does anyone know how long it takes for a fart?
Yeah, Daz.
The time necessary for the dispersation of the fart is dependent on the environment and the conditions relevant to where that fart is. So if you're in a closed closet with somebody, or you're in a very open room, and then if you're outside and it's windy out,
I told you he's a fucking cyborg.
These would all have very different amounts of time. I would say, Daz, if you open your window, you have a better chance.
Okay, so question from Hatem, who is actually one of my panelists on the show on Saturdays. Considering Hume was a scientific anti-realist,
and he answered it so seriously and matter-of-factly,
also say that you're a scientific anti-realism. If yes, what about mind depending on the brain is anti-realistic?
I would say no. I am a moral anti-realist, but I am not a objective or scientific anti-realist.
Okay. Let me see here.
You need a producer, Justin.
Yeah, so do you ever have doubts about God's existence?
He became a fucking a Muslim, dude. Look at all these people asking all these fucking questions.
I guess that could be a question for
in the Muslim world. I mean, they sit there and they fucking recite the Quran from like fucking
questions you don't answer.
So what would change my mind about theism? We would begin, as I've stated earlier, with the necessary conditions.
I'll give you a little bit of credit.
And I don't know what all of them would be. So how I could come to know the existence of a God is really something I don't know. I do also usually follow that up by saying, but an omnipotent God would know what the answer to that is, and if he wanted me to know, would provide me with it. But I could say that because I try to think, like, what are some things, I try to really reevaluate, what are some things that would have me believing in a God but not claiming to know it? Like, what are some necessary conditions for that? And I think
DMT.
If we could prove that everything that applied to things within the universe applied to the universe, if we were to prove that, or we were to prove a supernatural, I think that would a supernatural alone wouldn't get me there. But if we had proof of the supernatural, everything that applies within the universe applying to the universe, those would be 2 of the necessary conditions. I think maybe jointly would be sufficient. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, and I guess my answer to that would be, and I mean this is a good question since I'm 2 months into conversion to Islam. Doubts about God's existence. I think that everybody has some days to where they have questions, or even in conversations, kind of like the one Shane and myself just had.
Having right now,
being open-minded and putting yourself out there to have conversations with people that adamantly disagree with your position is something that you can expect to question your own positions. And I don't think that's a negative thing to contribute to have, is the sincerity of questioning your own position.
Yeah, it's sad when people make that mistake, because that's, what we should be doing is going like, okay, I changed my position in that debate. You know, instead of go, oh, well, you changed your mind. It's like, yeah, I was presented with more information, and my logic following it was that. So, yeah.
And that's kind of why I get upset when a lot of people try and tie skepticism simply only into atheism, that atheists are the only ones who are skeptical.
Right.
I believe that I'm very skeptical of my positions. Even when I was an atheist, I wanted to be skeptical not only of everybody else's position, but I wanted to put my
big
own
words from someone who fucking started this entire
say, hey, let's look at the standards of evidence or our epistemology and see if I'm being consistent. And to kind of like wrap my answer for the question up, is that what
see how humble he is on camera, but behind the scenes,
my mind about theism
goon, dude.
is if you were to find anybody was able to find a logical contradiction through an internal critique of Islam itself. Like, for example, the brothers and myself, we're going to be having a discussion with Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, on the 26th of next month.
Contradiction within an
about
internal
the Trinity
critique
itself and the logical problem of the Trinity.
Very
I've seen
intellectually
on the
honest.
Trinity. He does a pretty good job at explaining the contradictions in it.
Yeah, so we're to talk about the Trinity, the Incarnation, the Atonement, dive into absolute divine simplicity with even maybe some Muslims, because there are certain Muslims that do hold to absolute divine simplicity. Like contradictions on that front.
What do you give a shit?
And I'm not going to put Shane into this
live your life
category.
Enjoy your religion.
Very happy for me to not
enjoy your beliefs.
Category. But a lot of times
I never understood this.
I told moon splitting, the prophet being a pedophile, and Muhammad flying on a magical donkey. Through an internal
that was there me being excited.
Actually logically contradictory internally. Now you may say externally through a materialistic view that just there's contradictions that are in place, but through an internal internal critique of the belief system itself, I would like to find somebody who can find a logical contradiction within Islam.
Yeah, so a contradiction there though would be so if I'm not mistaken, is it believed that Muhammad was perfect? Because I've had differing answers, so I know that different camps of Islam disagree on this.
He doesn't know.
But do you think that Muhammad?
I don't think that Muhammad was perfect. I think that he was a fallible human being.
Okay, that makes sense. So the problem that I have, I guess, with that response is that I haven't heard of a theodicy to solve the logical problem of evil. And it seems to be the case that theists like yourself who say, I look at this religion and I find something that contradicts one of the laws of logic. So, for example, the Trinity violates the law of identity or non-contradiction. So you throw that out and it's like on to the next one. But the problem is, if then you posit a God who is omnibenevolent and omnipotent, then that existing or in a world with suffering is a logical contradiction. Because I'm not one of those people that thinks the logical problem of suffering or the evil disproves theism. It does disprove any positive God which has the traits of being all good and all powerful.
Mm-hmm. So the way that I would basically respond to that is stating that we're equivocating our human sense of what's good and bad onto the claim or the label of omnibenevolence. So like I said, when it comes to the theological stuff, I'm still in deep study of that. So I'm not in any position to really be arguing for the Quran itself and what it says in the Quran. I'm much
somebody send Shane a link to this review. He'll get a kick out of it, man. I think they'll have a lot more fun.
My best answer is that there's nothing logically contradictory about from our perception an evil God. Because I think that was one of the things as an atheist I could say that, well, you could say you could use any of the three main popular theodicies to say, okay, well, that's why we have free will. That's why there's evil in the world.
Free will, the soul-making theodicy, and
you could make an argument for an all-evil God and use those exact same theodicies.
But then what somebody starts to say, so the problem with that is, and that's one of the reasons I try to use the word argument or the problem of suffering as opposed to evil, because that gets us down a few rabbit holes. Mm-hmm. But suffering is by definition bad. So if somebody can have some people go, well, what about this form of suffering? It's a good thing. They always provide an example of something that outweighs suffering but involves suffering. But if you're omnibenevolent and omnipotent, it logically follows from that you would be able and would make a universe in which no experience of bad existed. Now, if you want to say, but that only applies to our concept of good and bad, fine. But that's what I'm talking about, is our concepts of good and bad. And if you want to say, well, according to some other concept of good or bad, which we don't understand, it might be good. Okay, fine. But we don't have any grounds for making judgments from standards that we're unable to access. Just judge from the standards that we have and what our standards tell us. And some people might argue with this. I don't find it to be entirely honest most of the time that they do, is that we experience pleasure. And I'm not just talking about the hedonistic pleasure, more in the Aristotelian sense as he talks about it. We experience pleasure is good. We experience suffering is bad. And if somebody wants to say that pleasure is bad or suffering is good, I have to say, okay, I don't know that they share my understanding of what these things are. So as long as you have suffering and we are experiencing suffering is bad, and it logically follows that if something was omnibenevolent, it would not want anything bad to exist, like suffering. And if it was omnipotent, it would have the ability to make the universe exist without that. It is a logical contradiction to say that God could exist in a reality with suffering.
He's juicing the system.
Yeah. So I'm not going to speak for God by any means. I think that would be haram. That would be total blasphemy. Speak for God.
Yeah, say it again.
I do perceive the possibility.
It's totally haram.
To be totally haram.
God could have created us without suffering. The
Total
only
haram.
issue that I see with that is that it would be some type of robotic world.
Yeah, I just want to make one clarification, and I'm not going to address everyone in the chat, but somebody just told me pleasure is not always good. Who cares about the rest of that comment? I didn't say that pleasure is always good. I said we experience pleasure is good. I did not say that pleasure is inherently good. You get pleasure from doing heroin, but it decreases your health to a degree that you experience more loss of pleasure from doing heroin than you were to do it. So sure, if you were to do heroin right now, your short-term pleasure would, you would have a very strong short-term pleasure, but you would be minimizing your pleasure being like caused BDSM by health as well, by doing something that's bad against your health. So to be clear, I did not say that pleasure is always good, so that we experience pleasure is good. So, and that's the best I can get for that.
All right. Junius Norris, question for myself. When you said that your consciousness might be restricted to the brain state, I used the logic that mind following this logic would not be able to create what it uses, right? So I didn't, if I did say this, I want to correct myself, but I don't think that I said that consciousness, the mind is restricted to the brain's state.
Yeah, he specifically said otherwise.
Khalil made a bunch of dumb statements about Islam and philosophy.
So I would back you on that. You specifically said the opposite of that. You don't
basically Muhammad recap.
I do.
Khalil is showing the fact that he's only been a Muslim for 2 months.
Okay, I think X has a question. If people didn't get sick, who would develop medicine? If you didn't do wrong, how would you know what's right?
So if people didn't get sick, who would develop medicine? No one. We wouldn't need it. So like the goal of medicine is kind of to not need medicine in a sense. Like I would rather have a world where there wasn't any medicine or a reason for it than a world where, okay, well, we have disease, but the benefit of that is we get medicines to treat them. I would much rather have a world where we don't have a need for the medicine. So the answer is, yeah, no one would develop medicine if there wasn't a need for it, but it would be better if there wasn't a need for it. So
I don't think Shane needs medicine anyways. He's a cyborg. Dude. He just needs some tune-ups from time to time.
Skip through this. Justice tapped out. He's not trying to answer no questions.
Yeah. We got 5 minutes before 2 hours, dude. We're right on the money.
Good 5 minutes. Let's get the last 5 minutes.
Easier to go. That's wrong. You had free will. Like it's a lot easier from.
Yeah, get the last 5 minutes on 150.
Yeah. Question for Khalil. What do you think about the first premise of the Kalam argument, knowing that the Big Bang had a beginning, but we don't know if the singularity did? So I would say that is I would.
He
have
needs to understand something,
opinion
Muhammad.
on or question. What do you mean the Big Bang? What is the Big Bang? So we can
Justin.
our observable universe as we know it goes back
Khalil,
to right
very
after,
disingenuous of you.
or right to the
You know what the
beginning
fuck
of
the Big
Planck
Bang
time.
is.
Anything before Planck time,
This doesn't make any
we have
damn
no
sense to me.
observable evidence of whatsoever.
Does
We have
it
the
seem like
theories
he's just
of,
making
you
up
know,
his
like the
views
big
as he
bounce or the big-
goes?
Yeah.
Big Bang
Like
theory,
he put on
all
a
these
costume
different theories that we
and he's
have.
just trying to play that part like an actor would.
I don't know if the
I
singularity.
think he's really doing a disservice to
This
Islam.
is when I go
No,
to the
I'm
Kalam
serious,
argument, like
dude.
I stated
If
before,
I was a member
is
of
the
Islam or a
Kalam
Muslim, I would
itself
think that
is a
he'd be
fully
doing us a huge
philosophical argument.
disservice
So
by
it deals with
representing
more
a
of
lot
what
of things
happened before
and then putting on
our
a
observable
costume to
universe.
possibly maybe make
So
some
I would
money
say
from
that our
super chats on
observable
his YouTube
universe
channel.
began to be
I really do
observable
feel that way.
for
I'm
how
not trying
we
to be
can
condescending
understand
towards
it
him or his
today
beliefs.
at a certain point
It just
in time,
seems
but
like
that
he's
doesn't
really just making
necessarily
this shit up as
prove
it goes.
that the
It doesn't seem like
universe
he
had a
arrived there
beginning.
through,
So I
like
will
in his
concede
heart.
that point.
It seems like he's
But when you
exploiting
look
the
at the
religion.
Kalam, it's more of a
And if
I
philosophical
was
Islamic,
argument
I'd be
rather
fucking
than
pissed.
an empirical one.
Yeah, I mentioned this before. He's a
one thing I think a lot
weirdo.
of theists and
It'd be like
atheists
if
are going
I
to have in
if
common
I
is
said
everything
that
you
I
just said
converted
going
to
way over their
Christianity and
head.
next year I opened up a
But
church.
we get into
And I'm just
cosmology, the
rolling in money from,
singularity.
you know what I mean?
It gets
From all
tricky.
the,
So
I don't know. Man.
that's yeah. I would encourage everybody who kind of listened to that and didn't understand it to like play it back if you're not watching live. Go rewind and listen to what he said again, because that answer in itself takes some interpreting to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Actually, I think he's said second premise. Sorry, so the universe
Oh.
began to exist. I mean, I would have the same answer for it. You know,
Good, because I was like, man, now he has to start all over. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. What's up, Wolfzoid?
What are we
I
at?
don't have any more questions.
time at?
Not a problem, Junius. Thanks for the really good questions. So
Mr.
Shane,
Ray the producer.
I think
Badass
that if
motherfucker.
people
Oh, yeah.
that are in the chat
Where
right
we at?
now
Where
would
we
have
at right
seen
now? Time.
our interaction.
We're at 157.
No, I mean I'm
without
there.
having any context
Oh, there?
or
Oh,
even seeing this
145,
20.
20.
I don't think that they would have believed.
Can we hit up the last like 4 minutes of this and see how
I
it's
didn't
gonna
either,
work
and that's
out
one of
so
the
we get this
reasons
2 hours as close
for everyone
as
watching. One of the things that I told Justin prior to this conversation,
I think it's
was
just-
I was like, look, I think any of our mutual friends or fans are going to be completely surprised that we haven't been getting along, because you tend to have very professional, polite discussions with people you disagree with, and so do I. So it's kind of weird that we weren't getting along. And
No,
I will say that
What?
I think a lot of
Professional.
it did have to do with
Prof-
you've recently interacted with a lot of
Shane, stop that. Stop
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Stop
You
lying,
think he
bro.
did so good. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you and him weren't getting along because Justin was being a fucking blowhard. Let's be real.
Yeah, and he didn't answer anything or teach you anything or
Right.
or at all. And he's trying to do this to look humble for everybody, but we know what kind of fucking crazy monster he is behind the scenes. I'm a fucking
Atheist.
I'm an asshole. I'm always gonna fucking say it. If someone's an asshole to me, I'm gonna be a fucking asshole. I don't know what else
Yeah.
to say. I'm not gonna hide it. If you put me on camera, I'm not gonna be like, oh well, let's just all get along. I don't know. Put on some crazy face. It's like I'm gonna continue to be the same person that I am. This guy Khalil is not the same person, and I have a fucking entire message board in my DMs full of the shit that comes out of this fool's mouth, and not just even typing, his real words and voice. He is something else, and he brings out the worst in people, including me. Whatever.
I've been there.
Whatever.
Are you ready to wrap this shit?
Yeah, let's wrap this shit the fuck
Yeah,
on
let's
up.
wrap it up
Yeah,
with a little bow on top.
Yeah.
And,
All that
Anthony
glad
Brown,
handing and
say-
Let's
shit.
get our final thoughts of this. I think this was an epic display of fucking Dunning-Kruger at its finest. This is one of Khalil Allah's
Bam,
best
bam.
appearances on the internet. Not
Definitely
the best, one of the best.
one
We
of the
have the
best.
best.
Definitely.
We have the best, and it's coming. When we hit 1,000K, you keep hitting that subscribe button, tube review, and you're gonna see the best of Khalil Allah. We have it. We're ready.
Well,
And we got best of Jake the Gin too for you, Hadither.
I
Anti-Haditha.
honestly think Shane should have just kept his composure like he was doing, and just kept laying really brilliant insults without him realizing that he was insulting him. I mean, I thought that was next level. I think that whole thing at the end, I think that Shane could have basically said, well, you know, we called me on to do this. You're very, you know, humble on camera, but you didn't match your energy that you did on the internet, and you didn't teach me anything, and we didn't fix any of my epistemology at all, and we didn't even address it. As a matter of fact, we didn't even address why you became a Muslim, which you brought up a few times, that you sidestepped after you were the one who already brought it up. So, Shane, if you hear this or see this, or we get a chance to talk to each other one day, mad props. I think you should have just stayed true to who you were all the way through. I don't think that you needed to tip your hat to Khalil at all. And I think you should have just be you, dude. Just be you. You're a fucking cyborg, and that's not an insult. Trust me. I'm a borderline dumbass, so cyborg is a compliment.
I give this discussion motherfucking 1 out of 10. There was no yelling, there was no screaming, no gaffes except on Justin's end. There was no jokes being had and shit. You know, the only joke was Justin's incessant rambling and coming up with these big words to interject with his little incessant rambling and statements and shit. The stroking of the beard, I give that a 10 out of 10. That's very masterful.
Yes.
Very masterful. I wish I had a majestic beard like that. I can just pet it like it's a fucking cat tail and shit.
Beautiful.
But you know.
Agreed. 10. 10 out of 10 for the beard stroking.
10 out of 10 for the beard stroke. 1 out of 10 for the fucking discussion. Almost fell to fucking sleep a couple times.
We have to rate his text message sound.
That's
an 11. It's an 11. I'm gonna get a soundboard, and that sound is gonna be on it. I promise you.
I need that text message. I need that text sound. That was beautiful. I mean, he's got the whole costume set up and everything. He is more Muslim than Muslims I know.
I bet you his ringtone is like his actual, like someone calls is the call to prayer. I would bet.
You broke up there, Kevin. What'd you say again?
Oh, I said I would bet that his actual physical ringtone when someone calls is the call to prayer that the Muslims have.
I think that's what it was too. He was supposed to be praying at that point in time, and he didn't go and do it. He should have did it.
I need to write down what times of day that they actually have to pray, and I need to see if he's actually adhering to this or if he's just fucking online being an asshole troll again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see pictures. I want to see his rug that he prays on, right? I want to hear from his wife. I want to know what his wife thinks about all this. That's what I want to know. Is she wrapped up now? Is she a member of Islam? Is he even allowed to be with a wife that is not Islamic? What does that say about an Islamic man? So many questions yet to be answered. Khalil.
Next time on Khalil Z.
Again one day, sir.
What's going on? Well, you know what I think about all this?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it was a very eloquent debate, and there was a lot of things I learned. I know.
I'm better than you.
You have to understand the point. That's the real QAnon. That's the real QAnon. That's the real QAnon. I know.
Schizophrenic philosophy. Yeah, I know.
It's not about the fire poker. It's what you do with the fire poker. And I know. The fire poker knows you, and you know the fire poker. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I just said that. Yeah, I know. Schizophrenia.
I am about Kitty. I love you.
I love you.
I know.
I love you. Yeah. You just don't know. I love you. I love you, Jay Rooster.